Hi everybody. It's been a while since I posted a video for math, but I was telling some of you on Zoom that we've got a new lesson to learn, so I would love if you can watch this and concentrate and then see if you can do some problems on your own. Can I start with a review from my last video? I think we were talking about mixed numbers and turning them into improper fractions. And a mixed number is a mixture of giant numbers and then stuck together with a fraction. That's a mixed number. This is a mixed number. And then this is a mixed number too. A mixed number, remember, is a giant whole number with a fraction. And I think it was like 2 weeks ago, we started figuring out how to wrap that around and turn it into something that's not quite right. Do you remember when we talked about like an upside down snowman that would be teetering and it wouldn't be quite right? It's not proper. So what we were doing a couple weeks ago is turning these into improper fractions. I gave you a special worksheet for this, and it showed you how to do a multiplication problem first and then an addition problem second. So, quick review. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. And I remember in the video saying, what do we do about a denominator? What do we do about a denominator? And basically, you almost always just keep the same denominator. If I had a basement number of 3 here, I'm just going to slide it over and have a denominator of 3 there. So I made an improper fraction of 10/3. It's the same thing, just 2 different names for the same fraction, for the same number. The reason it's improper is because 10 is so much bigger than 3 and it's balancing on top. So if we use that review here, we should remember to multiply and then add. There was a special worksheet for that. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 plus 1 more is 11. And we always say, what should we do about a denominator? Just keep them the same. 11/5. And then, of course, if we do a multiplication problem first and an addition problem next, we could wrap this around and consider this to be 14 and 1 makes 15. Okay, boys and girls, that's just a review. That was a review when we used to turn mixed numbers into improper fractions. I'm just going to keep the improper fractions on the board, and I'm hoping the eraser works well enough that you can't see what it used to be, because today's lesson is going to be taking these improper fractions and putting them back into a mixed number. For instance, if you saw this and you say 10/3, that's a weird fraction. We would say, yeah, it's more common to see that as a mixed number. So how do you turn it into a mixed number? It used to be here, but now it's gone. Today's lesson is turning these improper fractions back into a mixed number. Well, this is really going to jog your memory because this was way back, even before distance learning. When we first started fractions, we've named 3 ways that you could name a fraction. You could say 10/3, 10/3, and there was another way. Say it out loud if you know which one I'm talking about. Another way to say this is 10 divided by 3. And that's the secret to turning it into a mixed number. 10, look at, divided by 3. Boys and girls, we're going back to division for a little bit. So, how many times can 3 go into 1? It cannot. You open the curtain a little further. How many times can 3 go into 10? Many of you should take out, we probably don't have it, do we? That multiplication grid. Although you can pull one up just by Googling. Google a multiplication grid or chart and you'll get one. Maybe a family member could print it out for you. What you're looking for is if you go across the threes, how close can you get to 10 without going over? And if you use your multiplication grid, or if you know your multiplication facts, you know the closest you can get is 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract. Nobody's home. Now I have 10. 10 take away 9 is 1. 0 minus nothing. I'm just going to ignore. There's no more number to bring down, but I have this 1 left. Oh, I remember. Do you remember? Remainder 1. 3 remainder 1. Well, that's the division problem, folks. But that doesn't look anything like the mixed number we started with. So today's special worksheet is going to tell you how you take your division answer and just plug the numbers in the right spots and you'll get a mixed number. Here's the special worksheet I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you a great big box. The great big box is for the big star of the show, the quotient, the answer. The little box next to it is going to be for the remainder. I'm just going to write remainder. Maybe I should go back to the big one and say the star of the show, the big answer. And then we keep saying, well, what should we do with our denominators? We just keep dragging the denominators back and forth. We really don't do anything special with the denominators. So my star of the show in my division problem was 3. Let me take this giant 3 and put him in the giant box. Let me take my little bitty remainder. He was still looking. He's still up on the stage. He's still got a small acting part. He's kind of important. So we're going to put that one here. And again, the denominators, we just kind of keep them the same. We just kind of shift them back and forth. Nothing special about the basement number or the denominator. So if you recall, or if you want to rewind the video, we started with this fraction, boys and girls. It was 3 1/3, and we turned it into 10/3. That's called an improper fraction, remember? And then today's new lesson is once we divide it, we can recreate that mixed number. Okay, I want to just do it 2 more times and then see if you can practice it on your own. I'm going to keep my boxes here. I'm going to keep the big box for the big star. I'm going to get my little numerator box for the remainder. And my denominator, I'm just going to always use the same denominator. Okay, let me get rid of some of this garbly-gook so you don't get mixed up. Remember, fractions are really 3 ways you can say it. 11/5. Remember your spit guard? 11/5. Or 11 divided by 5. Bigger number in the cave, smaller number out of the cave. Well, 5 we know cannot go into 1, so I open my curtain a little bigger and I say, well, I know 5 can go into 11 a couple times. How many times can it go into 11 without going over? 2. Look where I line up my 2. Does this look familiar? Right over the end of the 11. Okay, 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract. Bring down. Nothing to bring down. I guess I'm done, but there's the... Oh, right. Okay, when we have 1 left over like that, we say it's 2 remainder 1. Now, if your teacher's asking for a mixed number, this is not a mixed number. So you've got to take this answer and plop them into the right boxes. The star of the show was this guy, 2. Let me just take him and plop him into the star of the show box. Big. Remainder's pretty important. We give them a job. It's a 1. I'm going to plop him in the remainder spot. And then, like always, denominators, whatever it was in the beginning, we just say, all right, we're just going to keep them the same. 2 1/5. That used to be on the board. If you don't believe me, rewind this video and you'll see that right in this spot, a couple minutes ago, it said 2 1/5. We turned it into this and now we turned it back. into a mixed number. These are mixed numbers. These are improper fractions. They both have something good about them, something bad about them. Sometimes you're going to want to do them like this, and sometimes you're going mathematically to need them to be an improper fraction. Okay, one more to go, and then we'll give you some practice. Let me get rid of some of this garbly-gook. I want to keep my boxes. Oh, let's turn that phone off. I want to keep my boxes the same so you know where to plug your answers in. Okay, 15 halves, 15 over 2, 15 divided by 2. 15 divided by 2. Big number gets to go in the cave. The little guy is on the outside. If you want to print a multiplication grid, it would be a good idea. You could just go across the 2's and see how close can you get to 15 without going over. You're going to find that you can go in 7 times. If you know your multiplication facts, you might not need a grid. Look at where I lined up my 7. Do you remember how we used to always stress how to line them up? I hope that's still fresh with you. Okay. 2 times 7 isn't 15. We only got to 14. So we put 14 here. We subtract. We bring down. Nothing to bring down. I guess we're done, but you know what to do with him. That's the remainder. If your teacher asks you to turn this mixed fraction into an... Scratch that. If your teacher asks you to take this improper fraction and turn it into a mixed number and you give her this, that's not a mixed number. You're going to have to plop them into the right boxes. The star of the show here is this guy. He's got the big part. The next best part to get is the remainder. He's pretty important too. We're going to take that one and plop him in his special place. And then, of course, the same thing goes on all the time. What should we do with our denominators? We almost always keep the denominators the same. Whatever it was here, we're just going to drag them up and put them there. So 7½ used to be here on the whiteboard, and instead we turned it into 15 halves. Now we turned it back to 7½. The way we did it is really just a division problem. And some fourth graders do the division problem. They say that part's easy, but then they just don't know where to put these numbers. The star of the show is going to be the whole number. The R never shows up anywhere. That's just a letter. And then the little remainder 1, he's going to be your numerator. Anytime you want to know what your denominator should be, just look at what it used to be and keep your denominators the same. Okay, so here's a practice one. Stop the video and get something to write on. I'm going to give you a mixed number. I'm going to ask you to turn it into an improper fraction first. So pause the video, get something to write on, and when you've got something to write on, hit play. Okay. Put me on pause. Multiply and add and turn this into an improper fraction, a bigger number on top of a smaller number. Ready, set, go. Is this what you got? I hope so. The way we got 19 is 4 times 4 is 16. We wrapped around and we added 3 more to 16. There was a special worksheet on that, and we just kept doing the same thing. Multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. I could probably come up with the date that worksheet was on Google Classroom. You could go back to that and get another worksheet of that. Some of you printed several that day. Okay, folks. Now, you probably have your scratch paper and have the mixed number already here. So let me change it just a little bit. Let me change it and see if you can get it back to a mixed number. What if you had something like this? can you turn it back into a mixed number? Put me on pause, do a division problem, plug in your answers in the right place, and then turn it back on and check your work. What do I do with it? Oh yeah, I always just keep them the same. Is this what you got when you converted your improper fraction back to a mixed number? I got 4 2/3, and I'm sure hoping you did too. Maybe you've started your math on Wednesday morning early enough, and if you're very confused by it, our Zoom session is going to be at 11:30, and I will be happy to go over this with you at 11:30 on Zoom. If you've tried it and you can't get it, I'll be happy to go over it with you. But if you think you've got it, on Google Classroom, there is a worksheet of all improper fractions. You're going to need a scratch paper and maybe a multiplication grid so that you can divide them all and then just plop the numbers in the right spot. Remember, the big box is for the big number, the star of the show. The little box or the numerator is where your remainder goes. And denominators, we know by now, stay the same. So folks, that's improper fractions to mixed numbers. Hope you got it. If you didn't, Zoom in at 11:30. We'll go over it again. Thanks. Bye.